A feared sorcerer and fighter, an undead puppet to the master of the One Ring, and a powerful foe that no man can kill. The Lord of the Nazgul was responsible for the rising of the domain of Angmar and the campaign against the neighboring kingdom of Arnor. Though many battles were fought and lost, the downfall of Arnor would eventually come by his hands. The Witch King would later be temporarily defeated at the Battle of Fornost and forced to retreat back to Mordor, but Arnor would not rise again. Just a quick note here, this build is going to use a fair amount of mods, and some of them are quite powerful. I highly recommend playing this build on higher difficulty levels, perhaps even with a mod installed to increase enemy difficulty. Starting with the basics, we are going to go with the elf race. And yes, we know that the Witch King was a human, but we are using the elf because of the sub-race of Shadar-Kai. The Shadar-Kai is more fitting for both the aesthetic, background, and the sub-race feature of being resistant to necrotic damage. So that is why we're going with elf as the race. Please note that you will need the Shadar-Kai mod to get access to this sub-race. For the class, we are going to start with Paladin. And you're going to need another mod here, because for the subclass, we are going to immediately go to Oathbreaker. So you will need the Start with Oathbreaker Unlocked mod for this. The Oathbreaker is the most appropriate of the subclasses, and immediately gets you an action for necrotic damage, Spiteful Suffering. For the background, you will also need a mod. This is called the Power of the Shadows mod. Gives you access to the shadow background, and right here it just seems like it's providing this class feature Fey Ancestry. However, do not be deceived, you need to look this one up, as there is a lot more to it than what you see listed here, and lots of effects specific to being stronger in the shadows and weaker in the sunlight. So this is very on theme for the character, and there is a lot to it. For the ability scores, we will be focusing on Strength, Con, and Charisma. The Wisdom is being set low due to the Wraith succumbing to and becoming the puppets of Sauron. Uneven scores here will be evened out later. So we will start with a Strength of 16 with the +2 modifier, a Dex of 10, a Con of 15 with the +1 modifier, an Intelligence of 10, a Wisdom of 8, and a Charisma of 15. For skill proficiencies, we're going to keep Intimidation because that's very on point. The other one's not so much, but I feel like Religion can be a good stand-in here, as we can see Sauron as a type of religious figure, kind of like a cult figure, and the Ring Wraiths as the cult leaders. Now we'll move on to appearance. Now for appearance, there's only so close we can get this. We're going to very loosely base this off of when we actually see the Witch King in his ghostly form in the Fellowship of the Ring. So we're going to go with body type 4 for an intimidating stature. The closest voice here is probably voice 7, but honestly, none of them sound quite right. For the face, we are going to go with head 2. This does not require a mod. This just seems to be a kind of pinched and thin look, which is what we see on the face of the Witch King. For the hairstyle, we are going to go with willow tears. And the reason we're going to go with willow tears is we want the hair to look kind of thin and messy. For the hair color, we're going to change it from white 4 to white 5. And then to add a little bit more to it, we're going to go into graying. You can skip highlights here. They really don't make a difference. Go to graying and choose gray white, which should already be the default, and turn it up 100%. And that will make it look a lot whiter. And that is it for the appearance. Again, there's not a whole lot we can do here to make him look like the Witch King from the films. So we're going to leave it at that and go on to the build section. For level 2, we're going to stay in Paladin. We need to choose a fighting style, and we're going to go with dueling here, but this needs a bit of an explanation. You will need to use a short sword instead of a long sword, which you can use as your Morgul blade, to get this bonus. The reason being that long swords default to being two-handed if they are the only equipped weapon. Now you can get around this if you use a shield, but that's not really on theme for the character. We are not choosing great weapon fighting here because we could not find any clips of the Witch King actually two-handing a weapon. It's always either longsword in one hand, Morgul blade in one hand, or longsword in one hand with a flail in the other hand. Now at level 3, we're going to multi-class. and you're going to need a mod for this as well. You are going to need the Accursed Class mod. Now, the Accursed fit really well here because they're almost paladin-like in a way. They are melee fighters, but also have some spell abilities. And what you unlock at the first level is a Dark Side, which gives your melee weapon attacks an additional 1d8 necrotic damage. And your class feature, while channeling your Dark Side, you ignore resistance to necrotic damage. And that's going to be very important for this build, as a lot of this will revolve around necrotic damage. Going on to level 2 in Accursed, we do have to choose another fighting style here, and we are going to go with defense, so just adding a +1 bonus to armor class while wearing armor, and you will always be wearing armor with this build. At level 3 Accursed, it's time to choose a subclass. There are 3 options here, but Possessed is definitely the most appropriate choice here. If you look at the action, this is Dark Passenger. There is something else guiding your hand, granting you a 1d6 bonus to ability checks, and you can definitely argue that the Witch King and the other Ring Wraiths have a Dark Passenger. Sauron is the one guiding their actions. You also unlock Dark Allure, which is taking necrotic damage to pull an enemy towards you and deal necrotic damage, as well as Dark Rejection, which is, again, taking necrotic damage, this time to push away an enemy and deal necrotic damage. So necrotic damage and a bit of telekinesis going on there. And remember that the character, because of being a Shadar-Kai, has resistance to necrotic damage, so they're not taking the full 5 points when they have to deal necrotic damage to themselves. At level 4 Accursed, it's time to choose our first feat, and we're going to go with ability score improvement so that we can boost up the con and the charisma to an even 16. At level 5 Accursed, nothing to do here, but you will unlock your second or extra attack, as well as Dark Drift, where you deal yourself necrotic damage to double your movement speed and prevent opportunity attacks. At Accursed level 6, you unlock a subclass feature, Mortal Coil. While succumbing to your dark side, you are immune to charmed and frightened conditions, very on point for a Ring Wraith. At level 7, you unlock Marred Strike. When dealt damage, prevent all damage that would be dealt and immediately suffer 9 necrotic damage instead. So again, this goes really well with being a Shadar-Kai, because you are able to prevent the damages that you are not resistant to and then change it into the type that you are resistant to. At level 8, it's time to choose your second feat, and we are going to go with Dual Wielder here. And the reason that we're going with Dual Wielder is to now give you the option to switch your weapons to a longsword and a flail at the same time. And now at character level 11, we're going to swap back into Paladin. So at Paladin level 3, we're going to unlock the class feature of Divine Health, making you immune to disease, which makes sense for any undead creature. Unlocks these 2 actions, Control Undead, so that could be on theme for the leader of the Nazgul controlling the other Nazgul. And then Dreadful Aspect, let your darkest emotions burst forth with many pulse to frighten nearby enemies. Anything that does frightening is very on point for the Witch King, as he does have basically an aura of fear around him. And then you get the 2 elf spells. Inflict Wounds is very on point, as it is another way to deal necrotic damage. Now, Hellish Rebuke may not sound very on point at first glance, but there is a clip where this longsword that he uses actually bursts into flame and has this almost force-like effect going out from it. And at the final level, we will stay in Paladin to get another feat. And the final feat, you could really go 2 ways here. You could either go with ability score improvement to boost up your strength to 18. You could also go for kind of a flavor choice here of Mage Slayer, which will give you advantage on any saving throw against creatures casting spells within melee range of you, and allowing you to use a reaction against that attacker. It also gives enemies you hit disadvantage on concentration saving throws. Now, the reason that this is kind of on point is because of the power that the Witch King has against Gandalf. Personally, I think I would go for the +2 in strength, but I could see either one working really well here. As mentioned in a few other builds, there is a mod for the One Ring, so if you'd like to roleplay that your Witch King has successfully retrieved the ring, you can do that. There is also a mod called Lord of the Rings Villain Weapons that will get you access to both the flail and the Ring Wraith Longsword. If you would prefer to go with less powerful weapons early on, You can use the short sword of life-stealing, available in Act 2 at the Last Light Inn, as a stand-in for the Morgul blade, as well as a flail, Merculite Scourge, towards the end of Act 2. These two weapons do not require mods. In addition, if you'd like to leave the special flail and longsword for the endgame, you could use the Blackguard sword initially, available in Act 3. If you want to be bonkers powerful, go for the Nauthiz Godlike armor mod, which gives you the ability to use that crazy looking armor on the Oathbreaker Knight. If you would prefer to just use some good armor that doesn't make you absolutely unstoppable, the Blackguard's plate is a good late game option available in Act 3. And while you're at it, you might as well grab the Blackguard gauntlets and greaves for a nice matching set. For a helmet that will make you look almost as cool as the Witch King in the films, try the Helldusk helmet, which also has some theme-appropriate properties. If you would prefer to have the head and face obscured by something cloak-like, try the Covert Cowl or something similar instead. That's it for the Witch King build. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I bet you'd enjoy our other Lord of the Rings builds as well.